How free trade agreements are reshaping Vietnam's trade map. After more than a decade of deep integration through next-generation free trade agreements, Vietnam's export map is being profoundly reshaped, with the CPTPP, EVFTA and RCEP emerging as three strategic pillars redirecting markets, supply chain and structures of export products in the post-2025 period. Beyond merely opening markets, these FTAs are driving qualitative shifts in Vietnam's competitiveness and trade positioning. The most evident impact lies in the expansion of market space and the reduction of dependence on a number of traditional partners. Next-generation FTAs have created a launchpad enabling enterprises to capitalize on tariff preference, expand export and integrate more deeply into global supply chains. Cumulatively, over the first 11 months of 2025, Vietnam's total trade turnover reached approximately $839.75 billion, up 17.2% year-on-year, with exports rising by more than 16%, a significant portion attributable to the effective utilization of FTA commitments. For the CPTPP in particular, the utilization of tariff incentives and rules of origin has increased markedly after several years of implementation. The value of export to CPTPP markets accompanied by certificates of origin rose from roughly $0.7 billion in 2019 to about $5 billion, equivalent to nearly 9% of Vietnam's total exports to the bloc. In 2024, bilateral trade between Vietnam and CPTPP members reached around $102.1 billion, up 6.8% compared to the previous year, and generating a trade surplus of approximately $9.4 billion. In 2025, total trade with CPTPP economies in the first 10 months climbed to $102.8 billion, with exports increasing by 26%. Underscoring the bloc's growing role in Vietnam's market diversification strategy. The impacts of EVFTA and RCEP are evident in the restructuring of trade flows, simultaneously expanding access to high-income markets, notably the EU, while reinforcing regional production networks in Asia. These FTAs not only reduce tariffs but also compel enterprises to upgrade production standards, traceability systems, and labor and environmental compliance, thereby enhancing the value-added content of export. Certain sectors, such as textiles and garments, have expanded their export networks to hundreds of markets and maintain their role as a key pillar of trade balance, with export turnover estimated at approximately $46 billion in 2025. In the long term, international forecasting models indicate that the cumulative impact of these agreements on Vietnam's exports will be substantial. CPTPP is projected to increase exports by around 28%, EVFTA by about 15.6%, and RCEP by approximately 12.5%, compared with a scenario in which Vietnam does not participate in these agreements, while also contributing to higher income levels and enhanced national competitiveness. After 2025, the most significant transformation lies not in trade volume figures, but in the structure of markets and export products. CPTPP markets such as Canada, Australia, and Mexico are emerging as new destinations for processed goods, electronics, and high-quality agricultural products, rather than Vietnam relying solely on traditional markets. This shift indicates a transition from an export model heavily dependent on contract manufacturing toward deeper participation in global production networks and the export of higher technology, higher value products. Alongside these opportunities comes intensifying competitive pressure. FTAs require enterprises to meet stringent technical, environmental, and labor standards, as well as transparency in product origin. The mere utilization of tariff preference is no longer decisive. Technological capability, domestic supply chain development, and compliance with rules of origin have become critical determinants. Without upgrading, domestic firms risk losing ground to multinational corporations that are leveraging FTAs to reorganize production and supply chains in Vietnam. Overall, CPTPP, EVFTA, and RCEP are reshaping Vietnam's trade landscape along three dimensions: diversification of export markets, upgrading of production standards, and restructuring of value chains. In the post-2025 era, these agreements are no longer simply instruments for market liberalization, but strategic frameworks enabling Vietnam to transition from a low-cost, export-oriented economy to a trade model driven by standards, technology, and high value added. Ultimately, the greatest benefits of FTAs does not lie in tariff reductions, but in compelling enterprises and the broader economy to undertake comprehensive upgrading in order to integrate more deeply into the evolving global trade order.